Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Gatekeepers. I am Reverend Dr. Vanessa M. Brown, and I am happy to be here with you on this evening. We are talking about being mutationally prepared, We want you to make sure that you share this Facebook Live. I say hello to all of our Facebook Live viewers. I say hello to all of our YouTube viewers. Those of you that are following us on Instagram and Facebook, as well as IG. We want you to make sure that you gather people around, gather your family members, gather your friends and your relatives, all of those. This is going to be a very interesting conversation. And we want to make sure that we give you as much information as possible on the front end of the show. We want to try to do that on tonight. We also want you to know that there's a possibility that Bishop Flunder will not be here with us this evening. However, we will move on due to some unfortunate events that have taken place. She has to take care of some things. And so we will still move on with Beyond the Gatekeepers. Let me bring to you our first person that will be with us tonight. Our guest for this evening is Dr. Purvi Parikh. She is a clinical assistant professor of medicine and pediatrics at NYU, New York University School of Medicine. Dr. Parikh, please come and greet the people, and please tell the people exactly what you do.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm an immunologist and an allergist. So I treat all sorts of immune disorders, allergy and asthma. And one of the things I'm very involved in is the COVID vaccine trial. So I'm currently involved in 6 of the studies since the very beginning in getting this vaccine developed, tested, studied, and out to the masses. So, since day one, I've been involved in the Pfizer vaccine trial, AstraZeneca, Sanofi, and just recently we joined forces with the National Institute of Health to look at the vaccine in pregnant moms and their babies and kind of follow them so that we can collect information that way too, called the Mommy Vax trial. So there's a lot going on, and I feel like I've seen a lot now over the last 18 to 19 months, and hopefully I can be a good, accurate resource, because I know there's a lot of confusion and misinformation out there.
I'm just so grateful that you said yes. And let me just tell the people really quickly. I read an article on Dr. Parikh. I was just reading an article and I was like, wow, this woman is amazing. She actually knows what she's talking about. And I'm going to just try to reach out to her and see if she says yes. And I did. And she said yes. So here she is. We're glad to have you tonight, Dr. Parikh. Of course, every week we have Bishop Pearson with us. He is an author, progressive spiritual teacher, and thought leader. We are always grateful for your presence, Bishop Pearson. Please come and greet our audience.
Pretty elated tonight to be on and actually to be fairly silent and just hear this genius and professional scientist speak. Obviously, she has character and intelligence, and she looks like she's about 14 years old, but I'm sure she knows what she's talking about.
You're too nice.
We're gonna learn a lot tonight, because we're threatened not so much by science, but by scientists. And so when your character comes forth, and I've only heard you a few seconds, I sense your character as well as your consciousness, and that gives us confidence in that what you say will be very instructive and constructive. So all of you who are listening, call your friends and say, tune in to somebody who know what she's talking about.
Exactly.
And know what she's doing. It'll
Yes.
be very helpful to all of us. We have a zillion questions, but I'm sure you'll answer most of them.
Thank you so much, Bishop Pearson. We're going to get right into it, Dr. Parikh. And what I want to say to the Facebook Live audience and YouTube audience, remember what she said. She's an immunologist and an allergist. If you have questions as it relates to COVID and what she does as an immunologist and an allergist, please post your questions in the chat and we'll get ready to get those answered. But in the meantime, Dr. Parikh, so much misinformation out there. I showed you the YouTube video that Bishop Pearson gave me. So many things that you've heard. Like you said, 19 months in, you've seen a lot. You've experienced a lot. Tell us about some of the misinformation, some of the stuff that we need to guard ourselves against. Because as Bishop said, people are looking to hear something that's accurate and correct because people are fearful.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's almost like, where do I start? And the sad part is all of it is untrue, and it's dissuading people from getting the vaccine. And then as a result, they're ending up in the hospital or worse, passing away. And it's all because they went to the wrong source for their information. I just want to give one statistic. So 94% of doctors in this country are fully vaccinated. So, let's say any of these conspiracies were true, why would every single physician or majority of them go forth and inject themselves with something that could be potentially harmful? No matter what you think about the pharmaceutical industry or doctors or healthcare pushing drugs on people, right? These are things that every physician or most physicians have taken themselves, right? So it wouldn't make sense to push something harmful on someone that we've all taken ourselves. So that's first and foremost. And then the second point I always like to tell people is that everyone should be far more afraid of the virus than this vaccine. We have over 600,000 people dead in this country. We have, millions globally. I think one statistic was we were losing as many people as 9/11 on a daily basis at one point. That's just crazy to me. I mean, 9/11 itself was such a devastating loss, and imagine repeating that 365 days a year, especially now when we have something very preventable. We have a vaccine that can prevent these deaths, can prevent these hospitalizations. And not only are you protecting yourself, you're actually protecting all of your loved ones as well. So, I can just list some of the rumors I've heard off the top of my head, but then I'll, leave it to you if you have any questions. But, I've heard that it causes infertility. That's not true. There's many women who I know that were not pregnant when they got the vaccine and now are, and some that have successfully already delivered. I've heard that, you know, it has all sorts of things in it, like microchips and magnets and, you know, God knows what else, but none of that is true as well. And going back to the infertility part of it, you know, I'm a woman of childbearing age. I would never take anything that had even a 1% chance of causing infertility. So again, it's very safe for, you know, all women. Now we know children as well, of all ages, genders. We know it doesn't contain anything that's going to change your DNA. It doesn't contain any microchips or magnets. And the actual vaccine is in your body for such a short amount of time. In 1 week, half of it's already out of your system. And then in 2 weeks, even more so. So it really can't stay in your body and cause all these problems long-term. It can't stay in your body and incorporate its way into your DNA. In fact, the way the vaccine works, it's nowhere near the part of your cell that actually even has the DNA. So for multiple reasons that a lot of these things just don't make sense from a medical standpoint. You know, I've also heard that it can make you more sick. I think the video that you had sent me earlier today was that someone was making claims that it causes something called antibody dependent enhancement, where, you know, if you get the vaccine and your own body starts making antibodies, which is supposed to happen to protect you, that in turn will make you more sick. So that is a concept that does occur with other infections, but it's not true with COVID-19. We've seen it occur with dengue fever, where sometimes your own antibodies can make you more sick. We've seen it occur with other coronaviruses, other SARS viruses like SARS in the early 2000s, MERS, which is the Mediterranean respiratory virus in the early 2000s. But with COVID-19, that's not the case. And the reason why I can tell you that is that we've been actually treating people with, I'm sure you heard about the monoclonal antibody treatment that our last president received. I'm sure you also heard that
Yes.
in the
We talked
pandemic.
about that last week. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then initially in the pandemic, we were using blood of recovered folks to treat people who were sick, you know, using their antibodies. So if, let's say, this concept existed, you know, where antibodies would make you sicker, those treatments would not work, you know, and you know, the president of the United States is not going to take a treatment that doesn't work. You know, he has access to the top line, you know, treatment medications. You know, he both, no matter what your political affiliation, him as well as President Biden have both been fully vaccinated. So again, I just want to get the truth out there so people understand that it's not unsafe. It's actually very safe. It's been thoroughly tested, and I'm happy to answer questions on that since I've been involved in that process. And yeah, I mean, I had so much faith in the vaccine. I even enrolled my own parents in the Moderna vaccine trial because I felt so helpless. I couldn't protect them. They're in their 70s. They have medical problems. So I wanted them to be, you know, get a chance at hopefully getting the vaccine even before it was approved. So for all of these reasons, you know, I hope I'm at least helping dispel some of these myths.
That was excellent, because we do know that a lot of this is existing right now, currently all over social media, all over YouTube, so many places that you can find misinformation. Thank you for that. Now, you deal with children.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very sensitive issue. School is about to start. School has started in some southern states. School is about to start in New York City, New Jersey, in the northern states. These children are not vaccinated. Children are showing up in hospitals in Texas and other southern regions at an alarming rate. Hospitals are being overrun. Tell us about children and this COVID-19.
Yeah, so this is a real concern because early on in the pandemic, children, for whatever reason, were not as badly affected. So people became falsely secure that, you know, kids can't get sick from this, kids can't get infected or die from this. But then what happened was that this virus mutated, and now it's mutated to a form where it does 1 infect children. 1 in 5 COVID cases to date are in pediatric population. That's a big percentage. Kids are getting sick. In fact, in Texas, Florida, the children, the pediatric ICUs are full. Children's hospitals are full with all kids, and they are passing away too. I mean, I'm hearing stories, sadly, of very young kids dying. And even let's say you argue that they're not dying at the same rate as adults, but isn't just one child lost devastating? To me, that's tragic, especially when we have ways to prevent it, and we have ways to protect our children. So right now, COVID-19 is a big threat for kids. And the main reason is majority of them are unvaccinated. One, because it's still being tested for the really young kids, and it's approved age 12 and up, but only I think a third in that group are vaccinated because parents are hesitant, to get their children immunized. But I say this to every parent who asks me if they should. I said, 1, absolutely. And 2, because ironically, parents feel like they're protecting their kid, right, by not getting them vaccinated. But ironically, you'd be protecting them more with the vaccine. So because you would be protecting them from being admitted to the hospital and from death. The vaccines show across the board in children, adults, that they keep you out of the hospital and they will save your life. So especially with school going back, I think whoever is around the child that's eligible should be vaccinated. I think masking should occur in schools because otherwise we're actually really putting our children at risk.
And so, which I'm very happy that New York City has mandated that all teachers and all workers at the school must be vaccinated. It's not an if, and, or. It's not a choice. They are mandating that people are vaccinated. I know over in New Jersey as well, it's not a mandate, but they are requiring vaccination. And if you cannot be vaccinated, if you choose not to be vaccinated, then they are saying that you have to undergo COVID testing multiple times a week.
Right.
And I do understand that. But do you think in your expertise that they should probably wait before opening schools, delay the school opening in some kind of way, because this Delta variant is vicious and is taking children out?
Right.
What is your opinion around that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. And it's a very tough question because unfortunately, children don't learn well virtually. That's what we unfortunately learned over the last year and a half. So children need to be in school. Many children rely on school for food and for meals, for nourishment. Many children rely on schools for their social development. And it's just across the board, it's actually harmful in a way to keep them at home. But at the same time, we're in a pandemic. We have this very deadly variant. So I think the answer is it really depends regionally, because in some areas, like you said, New York, for example, where vaccination rates are high, infection rates for now are under control, by all means, children should be attending school, especially if there's vaccine mandates and mask mandates in the schools and they're being conducted properly. And I think most of the country should be able to get our kids back to school in some type of manner, a safe manner, whether that be a hybrid type where they're in school part of the week, home part of the week. But I really worry for those areas of the country where, the governors are flat out saying that schools can't enforce mask mandates. I mean, I think that's a little ridiculous, especially because those areas need it the most, so it's tough. I think it's very dependent geographically and then also on, the infection rate as well. But it's in a child's best interest, I think, to be in school. So if we can get them there safely, that's the best case scenario.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. Bishop Pearson, do you have anything you want to add? And then I'm going to go to a couple of more questions. We only got a few more minutes with her.
Just briefly, Doctor, what do you suggest people should do in addition to immunization? Vitamin D3, A, B12. How do we build our own immune system up in addition to, and especially if people are afraid of the vaccine?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one I get frequently as an immunologist. So again, you said it. The single most effective way to boost your immune system is to get the vaccine. But outside of that, all of these supplements that people have been taking in mega doses have not really shown to help boost your immunity to that point where you can fight a deadly virus.
Wow.
The only ones that really show immune benefit is vitamin D, like dog. That one is really important in the functioning of all of your organs, and zinc as well. But zinc is less important in developed countries like America, because the zinc issues are more if you're very, very low, and that's more in malnourished people in certain areas of the world who might be under starvation or not have enough access to good nutritious food. So really, in the US, vitamin D is the only supplement that you need to be taking. And even that is, you don't need mega high doses. I would work with your physician to see what dose is appropriate for you. But again, no vitamin is going to protect you from this virus. So things that you could do to get your immune system in check are all kind of common sense measures. Get enough sleep, avoid alcohol and junk food, exercise, keep yourself at a healthy weight. See your doctor so they can advise you if you need to take vitamin D or not, and do the routine physical things. But none of these things work overnight, right? These lifestyle changes take months to get healthy. Right. The quickest way, again, is the vaccine. It's the single most efficient immune booster. And it's a little bit sad that it's become so controversial.
It's very sad that it's become so controversial. I had a doctor's appointment today, and they were looking at me sideways. It was like, did you take the vaccine? Yes, I took the vaccine. But he said that so many people that have come that he has seen as a doctor refuse to take the vaccine.
Yeah,
and I think that that's very sad. I think it's very, very sad to hear. And I was blown away. So we have a few questions. We only have a few minutes, and it's from Darnell Ishmael. He's from Flint, Michigan. He says, as one who is connected to choirs in community churches and at the collegiate level, I see we are all doing wildly different things when it comes to a return to singing. What should we be doing?
Right. So that's a great question. Singing is considered something where there's potential for more spread of the virus, right? Because, you're exhaling. There's more likely that you'd be singing loudly. So there's more viral particles that could be going into the air. So that is a tough question, because if you're around all fully vaccinated people, likely the spread would be very low, right? Even if you're very close to them and singing very loudly. But now with the variant, we're having a lot of information from the CDC that even vaccinated individuals can spread it as easily as unvaccinated individuals. But the good news is those vaccinated people will still have a much milder form of the illness should they get sick, meaning, they'll recover at home rather than having to go to the hospital or, God forbid, passing away from it. But, because given the variant and given that most choir activities occur indoors where spread is more so, you may want to either consider masking. I know that's very difficult when you're trying to sing, or distancing in some way. So you might even be able to forego the mask. And of course, ventilation is important. Right now, given that it's summer, if you can keep all the windows open, that's best, because it's really in those enclosed spaces with poor ventilation that this virus can easily spread. And unfortunately, singing is a high-risk activity, shouting, because you're just expelling more particles from your mouth. It's an airborne virus, so it's challenging. But again, more people are vaccinated, less likely there'll be issues.
Thank you for that. And we have a statement here from Bishop Sonia Williams. She says, here in Georgia, counties are closing schools and hospitals are overcrowded. Governor Kemp brought in the National Guard to assist in hospitals. I need us to really, really pay attention to what's going on in different states. You said something that was very key early on, Dr. Parikh, that is depends on your local region. It depends on where you are. People that are listening on Facebook Live, I hope that you're sharing with your friends and your family, school teachers and the like. We need to keep our ears to the ground and pay attention to what's happening in our state. We have people on here from California, from Texas, from Oklahoma, from all around the world, New York City, New Jersey, everywhere we can think of. And even international international countries are here. And we want you all to pay attention to what's happening, because what's happening in America is not the same thing that's happening in South Africa. It's not the same thing that's happening in Australia. I just read something, New Zealand shut the whole state down because one person had COVID. I don't know if you all read that, but one person was COVID positive, and the minister decided we're shutting the whole state, the whole country down. Nobody goes in, nobody comes out, everybody is quarantined until they feel like this is done, right? And we already know that they talked a lot about her as a woman president and said what a great job that she did. I don't know if you agree with that, Dr. Parikh, but it worked.
Yeah, I mean, I think what she's doing is right in a way. I mean, look at New Zealand; they have the lowest COVID rates in the whole world, you know, and they had the least amount of people die. So, I mean, I can see why people would say it's harsh, but to be honest, it works. You know, it works better than some of the things we're doing in certain parts of the country. And to your point, geographically, you have to be adaptable. So, you know, a few weeks ago, you know, things can look very different than now. So, you know, you have to be ready to shift and adapt, unfortunately.
Here is one. Let's talk about the booster, because that's also very alarming for some people. You said something very key earlier on, that it doesn't stay in your body long enough to do anything really, right? And so tell us about the booster and why we should be considering getting the booster after a certain amount of time.
Right. So one thing I want to clarify is that even though the actual vaccine doesn't stay in your body a long time, the good news is the immunity does. So the tools to fight it. But, you know, what some studies are showing is that some people might be losing immunity after 8 months, you know, not completely. So still these people are staying out of the hospital. Still these people are not dying from COVID-19. So the vaccines are still working very well with severe disease. The whole idea behind the booster is to kind of stay on top of it, so we don't get to the point 10 months, 12 months down the line where there might be a drop in immunity and then someone could get really, really sick. So the booster doesn't mean that the vaccines don't work. It doesn't mean that, you know, this is more harm that you're going to have to inject into your body. This is more just being prepared. And we do this for all different vaccines. There's a tetanus booster. There's a pneumonia booster. We take flu shots every year. So again, it's expected. And absolutely, you know, certain groups should get it before others. So if you're immunocompromised, you should start considering a booster now, because immunocompromised people don't mount as good of immune response as someone who's not. If you're high risk, meaning you're working with COVID patients as a healthcare worker or first responder, if you have certain medical problems that put you higher risk. And, you know, the government announced that they're going to recommend it for all Americans in the upcoming week. So really, I think all of us will be going to get one. And I don't see it as a bad thing, especially with this Delta variant circulating. It's just an additional way that you can protect yourself.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to keep going with the questions. It says here, one of them, it says, they want to know about ailments that are developing. And in particular, they're talking about some form of heart ailment or problems from the vaccine. Have you seen that in conclusion with any of the studies that you've been a part of?
Right. So, yeah, there was a concern regarding something called myocarditis or pericarditis, which is inflammation in your heart. And they found in a very, 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 very small group of people who received the vaccine that this inflammation was there. So we don't know for sure if the vaccine caused the inflammation. One, it could have been a coincidence. Also, the group in which they found it, this is a group that's predisposed to getting this heart inflammation anyway from any virus. So one, we don't know if it was caused by the vaccine, but two, it was literally dozens of people, right, out of millions that had received the vaccine. So if you just look at it from statistics, you're more likely to be hit by lightning than to get this heart inflammation. But if you get the real virus, then there's a very high chance of getting that heart inflammation. So myocarditis and pericarditis is very common with actual COVID-19 infection. We've even seen it in young athletes who are, you know, in top shape, very healthy. Even they've gotten heart inflammation from the actual virus. So that, if you look at percentages, is much more common. I mean, 20, 30% of people, they're saying, who are hospitalized have heart inflammation. So that's much higher than the handful that they found in the vaccine group. So ironically, you're actually protecting yourself from this heart inflammation by getting the vaccine. And I know it's very confusing because the media loves to blow things up, you know, so it seems like, oh, the vaccines are causing it, but they're missing the point. The virus is causing it at much more common rates, you know, and the same goes for blood clots too. I know there was some concern over that, but same thing. It's like a 1 in a million chance with the vaccine, but if there's a 30% chance, 1 in 3 people hospitalized get blood clots from the actual virus, which is much higher. So you would want to take your chances with the lower one.
That makes absolute sense. I want to go on, and there's 2 things that I want to say because we got to go. But one is for people that have taken the vaccine and they take immune suppressive drugs.
Mm-hmm.
How well does the vaccine work?
Right. So the big question is we don't know because there's so many different immune suppressive medicines and they all work in different ways. So some might only suppress it a little bit, some may a lot. So that's one of the reasons those people on immune suppressive medicine should be going to get their booster shot now, actually. So already my own patients who are on immune suppressive medications have already started getting their booster shot. So because we don't know how much your medicines suppress it, you are the person, you're the ideal candidate who should be first in line to be getting this booster shot. And you can go to any pharmacy as of a few weeks ago.
Thank you for that. 2 more. Cytokine effect. Most people who have, maybe some kind of immune deficiency, they have been talking about not wanting to get the vaccine because of this cytokine effect. Some people that have had sarcoidosis and so many other things. Tell us about the cytokine effect and also about herd immunity. Some people want to know what exactly is herd immunity.
Right. So I know I keep sounding like a broken record, but the cytokine effect, all cytokines are is your immune system kind of turning on, right? So it's inflammation, it's your cytokines are parts of your immune system that tell the other parts of it what to do. So it's basically just your immune system turning on. But this actually occurs in much larger numbers, again, with the real virus itself. Earlier in the pandemic, I'm sure you heard the term cytokine storm being thrown around. So it's not the infection actually that kills people from COVID-19. It's the over exaggeration of your immune response because our immune systems don't know what to do with this brand new virus. So there's an overactivation of cytokines, and that's actually dangerous because that's what can cause multiple organs to fail, from your lungs to your hearts to your kidneys. Now, yes, vaccines also cause your cytokines to turn on, but at a much, much, much more lower level. And you're not being injected with any active virus. So it's not dangerous to you in the way that the actual virus is. So I know there's a lot of concern over that. But again, the virus causes far more damage from just a cytokine perspective than the vaccine does. And every vaccine that you've received does temporarily increase your cytokines, but it's supposed to. That's what your immune system does when it turns on, gets ready to fight the infection. But the nice thing about the vaccine is that you get the effects of that without getting the bad parts of it, meaning getting very sick and without getting all the destruction to all of your organs and other body parts. So people with autoimmune diseases initially were worried about getting the vaccine because their immune systems are already overactive, but ironically, those overactive immune systems are at higher risk of even more overactivity if they get the virus. And what the vaccines do is they'll actually protect those individuals, like people with sarcoidosis or Sjogren's, because many of those people are on immune suppressive medicines. So it'll make your immune system ready to fight it off. And also now the good cytokines from the vaccine will actually keep the bad cytokines in check. So the immune system is very smart, it kind of has all these checks and balances, and problems happen when things get out of balance. So what the vaccine does is it helps bring things back into order. So some of those cytokines are actually a good thing. That means that your body is getting ready to fight the infection should you come in contact with it.
And herd immunity?
Oh, sorry. And herd immunity, yes. So this is like the vague term everyone keeps hearing. So herd immunity is when you get to a certain point where there's virtually no infections or it's barely being passed around. And so as a result, everybody's safe because infection rates go down, the hospitalization, death rates go down. So some diseases, and it's all thanks to vaccines, have virtually been eradicated. and they have reached herd immunity and they're gone. So measles, polio, all of these illnesses that used to, cripple people and kill people are now gone. And it's all because of vaccines. The important thing to note is that there hasn't been a single infection since the history of time that's reached herd immunity without a vaccine, because you can't wait for enough people to get it, because unfortunately the infection kills more people, right, than lets them survive to benefit from that immunity. So herd immunity is usually when enough of the population is immune so that we're no longer seeing spread of the virus. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. We need to see at least 75 to 80% of our whole country fully vaccinated to reach that herd immunity.
Where are we? Where are we?
I think we're right at between 50 to 60%, and then I think a little more than that have had at least one dose. And the problem with that partial immunity is it still gives way for the variants to arise, the virus to keep mutating. And the more variants that come, it's kind of like one step forward, two steps back. It keeps us from that herd immunity. So if we don't want variants, and if we're all sick of all of this, again, getting vaccinated is the key to get out of this, because then the variants will stop, the infections will stop, and we'll be at that magical herd immunity that everyone speaks about.
Last question, because I got to cut you loose. Breakthrough cases.
Right.
I've been vaccinated, right? Several people I know that have been vaccinated, but they still have the virus. They are still also very sick, battling with the virus. What happened? And what can we do so that we don't get it?
Yeah, and it's sad because people are using breakthrough cases to say, oh, look, the vaccine doesn't work. But it's actually the opposite. The reason why there's breakthrough cases is because of unvaccinated individuals that are causing variants, and then people get sick. But the way
that again, slow down. That was good. Say that again.
The reason these breakthrough cases are occurring is because unvaccinated individuals are spreading around the virus. It's mutating. And then, yes, it might infect someone who's vaccinated, but a vaccine isn't a cure. What the vaccine does is it ensures you won't get as ill. So it will prevent severe disease, meaning it will keep you out of the hospital. It will save your life. So yes, there might be mild cases in people who are vaccinated, but imagine what would happen if they weren't. That same person might end up in the hospital or on a breathing machine, or worse, 6 feet under, which nobody wants. So remember that, breakthrough cases does not mean the vaccine is failing. It just basically means we don't have enough people vaccinated. And that's why these infections keep occurring. And then the last thing I want to note is that, people think that you recover from this virus and you're back to normal. Absolutely not. Recent studies show that over 75% of people over a year later still have some symptom. And it's not something mild. So it's not like your cold or flu that you can go back to work in a few weeks or school. People have serious neurological problems. Their kidneys they're on dialysis, or they need lung transplants. And many of these people were perfectly healthy before. So, you want to think about that too. Don't just focus on the death rate, because even if you get this virus, it's not an easy road to recovery.
What are you telling parents as an allergist? You're a pediatrician.
Mm-hmm.
As an allergist and an immunologist, what are you telling parents to tell their children?
Oh, yeah. Kids are very smart. I know there's so much debate about masks in schools, but I've never met a kid to date that has a problem wearing a mask. In fact, not only do they wear them, they keep them on longer than adults do. So children don't have any issue with it. They mirror their parents. So if you say, this is what we have to do, we have to keep the mask on at school, just like you have to keep your shirt and your shoes and your pants on, they'll do it. They have no problem with that. We also, parents are now telling them, you can play with your friends, but don't do it so closely. Don't share lunches. Always keep washing your hands. Because, even before the pandemic, kids are little petri dishes. They've always spread germs around, especially this time of year as they're going back to school. So children, to be honest, are the easiest audience in this whole pandemic to do things right, because they listen and they learn very quickly. And like I said, I've never met a child that's objected to wearing a mask. They do it without any issue.
You've been wonderful. Thank you so much. Somebody just said, I love Dr. Purvi Parikh. Can she lecture all of the United States of America? I mean, people need to hear somebody that's brilliant and actually knows what they're speaking of. Thank you for your time. I'm going to invite you back. You know that we're
Absolutely.
going to have more time to speak to the people. But this was great. We appreciate your presence on tonight. And until the next time, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
She was brilliant. We love that, Dr. Pearson, Bishop Pearson. And I have to say, so much information was given on tonight. I'm wondering, you put a post up the other day, and of course, I read your post, and I'm always on your page, and I'm gonna read your post. Is that okay?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Says, Americans don't have a problem believing in or trusting science. We struggle believing in and trusting scientists these days, including political scientists. We don't have a problem with politics, just politicians. Tens of millions of Americans use medicine daily and spend billions of dollars doing so. Hundreds of millions regularly vote for or against something or someone, both officially and unofficially as well. Both scientists and politicians are human beings, being human just as the rest of us are. Any and all so-called professionals are role players, as are we all, whether parents, children, siblings, spouses, priests, peasants, presidents, or paupers. We're all involved in habitual role playing, which is a normal human proclivity and function. We are now very conspicuously being confronted with the depth of incivility, sensitivity, bigotry, cruelty, and violence. Even some of the most sincere, religious, and supposedly well-intentioned humans can sink. Humanity at large needs to, and indeed in being upgraded as a species. I know it looks frightening, but there can be no full evolution without varying aspects of dissolution. America, like the rest of the world, is at a crossroads. The universe itself is in transition and at a critical and pivotal intersection in ways that causes people to feel tense and insecure. Growth and expansion demands change and will not tolerate stagnation. Some things must dissolve, dissipate, and ultimately disappear, both symptoms and source, as the universe corrects itself. We must all manage, and ultimately master change. Stay focused, pliable, purposeful, and as peaceful as possible. Pause with poise. Contemplate with conviction, sincerity, and serenity. Meditate at least as much, and preferable far more, than you medicate. As humans, we are designed and assigned to survive, endure, and thrive, and indeed we will. I look forward to seeing you on the other side of this bridge. We will cross it together as a species and as supportive friends. I think that was just so incredible that you wrote that, but I know that you just don't write arbitrarily. I know that you write as your higher conscious tells you to, as spirit gives it to you. And so I want to know more about this particular piece in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of a Delta variant, where children are dying, being hospitalized, hospitals overrun, and all the skepticism around this pandemic and taking the vaccine.
Well, the bottom line probably of the paranoia that's on the planet today, and particularly in our country, finds its base in years of growing PTSD, post-traumatic distress disorder. We've been traumatized, African Americans, for 400 years. We have a very heavy victim consciousness, so we don't trust anything related to white people. With rumors about them trying to, with this particular disease disproportionately affecting people of color, we're intimidated by that. They're trying to get rid of us, but we're also, the general populace has distrust in the institutions. They don't trust leadership. We don't know what happened on September 11th altogether. We're not sure who killed JFK. We're struggling over things as far back as the Vietnam War, which we lost. And now we're pulling people out of Afghanistan because that's a 20-year, exercise in futility. So we don't trust the decision makers. For Dr. Fauci, now the CD, what is it? Centers for
Disease Control,
CDC, is saying that, and the FDA is saying that this present Pfizer drug is okay. People don't even believe that anymore. Millions of people don't trust the CDC. They don't trust Dr. Fauci. They don't trust the presidents and senators and their doctors. I have the Moderna vaccine. My personal position, and I had a little weirdness 2 days. My assistant actually booked it for me because I was hesitant too. I wanted to wait about a year. Rumors are everywhere. One of the primary, most destructive viruses in the world today, especially in America, in ways we're not collectively used to, is distrust and suspicion of the staple and supposedly stable institutions. We just don't trust anymore. That's the biggest sickness on the planet. We love our family members. Families are arguing viciously and violently, verbally over this. And we've been doing that since Trump got in office. We're traumatized by that president. His whole words of distrusting the culture and fake media, and this is a hoax, and this is a witch hunt, and all these terms are running around in our heads, and people are committing suicide over this. They're going into insane asylums. They're getting addicted to drugs, and they're over drinking, and they're beating their spouses and their children. And what we don't realize is that more people are born in this country and in the world every year than who die. We're so afraid of death. According to the World Bank, for every 1,000 people in the world, an average of 7.748 people will die each year. And 19.349 will be born. That's 2.5 births per death. So we're actually growing and expanding, and more people are coming to the planet than leaving with all the diseases that are on the planet. So to believe that, and I've toyed with the whole concept of them controlling the population, wanting to take it down from nearly 8 billion to about 700 million, and the Bill Gates and the QAnons and all these fantasies and conspiracy theories that are so avidly viral within the internet and social media. We are confused. So everybody needs to stop, center yourself, ask yourself what you really believe. Why are you afraid of the things of which you are afraid? Do you think white people want to kill all black folks, or that some cabal wants to kill everybody on the planet, and that all the rich people are trying to get to Mars or kill all the poor people off the... I mean, these things are out there. We got to stop and say, how much insanity are you willing to accept as sanity?
That's right.
And when is common sense anymore? It's an immunization. Who wouldn't immunize themselves against a disease? I remember the measles shots. I got them. I remember polio shots. I got them. I remember the needles and in those days back in the 50s and 60s, they would have a live fire in the principal's office where they would disinfect the needles. I was scared to death standing in line for that shot, but I got it. I saw many people with measles and polio. I don't see that anymore. So I still have somehow, amidst questions, Jesus, there's a scripture that says, Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. I'm saying to all of you, particularly who call yourselves believers, say that to yourself. I do believe. Help my unbelief. I'm struggling in this area, and let me trust that ultimately, if there is in fact God, that God will preserve us somehow. And that medical science, the same people that fight the vaccine, take an aspirin and eat food, which is genetically modified. Yes. And they trust things that are untrustworthy, but they survive them. So we need to veer away from paranoia, over amplification, magnification of deadly negative emotions, come back to sensibility. And ultimately, I'm just telling you, ultimately, everybody's going to be vaccinated in order to thrive. Now, the other people, well, that's the mark of the beast because you can't buy and sell. Stop all that religious jargon, which has already crippled the planet, and start thinking more soberly and more sanely.
Yes, that is so good, particularly around the paranoia, right? And I think that so many people have become paranoid, and the misinformation that is going around on social media, and we feed that misinformation from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, until people have become consumed
Yes.
with this particular kind of information, and it causes paranoia because you don't know what to do, because there is distrust. And so I'm hoping this is the reason why we do Beyond the Gatekeepers, because we want to get information out so that people can feel secure
Yes.
and safe. Nothing is 100%. Again, as you said, when we were children, we had immunization. You couldn't go to school without immunization. And
Right.
we had these yellow cards. Somebody else said they had blue or yellow cards. I mean, blue or green cards. I had a yellow card. I still have a yellow card.
Yeah.
And when I, no, honestly, and when I was, because when I started going to seminary, they make you check and to see if about your immunizations, believe it or not. And once you find out, some of us needed boosters, right? Because the MMR had run out. So we needed to get booster shots. When we went to Africa and all of these places, we needed to receive immunization, yellow fever, and all these different things just to get into the country. And so I'm hoping, that this information that we're given tonight from the doctor, information that you have disclosed on tonight, is going to be helpful.
Well, we long to return to normal, but normal isn't normal anymore. And in a sense, normal led us to this. Whatever was normal led us to this. To avert or manage the future pandemics we know are coming, because they've always come and gone, we must grapple with all the ways normal failed us. Think of all the things that were normal in your life that failed you.
I think, say more about that, because that is what the problem is. The problem is that we don't want change. I hear people say over and over and over, I can't wait to things go back to normal. I can't wait to get things back to normal. But normal wasn't working.
So we have to build something better, a new normal. That's what I said. We must make the change, manage the change, and ultimately master change. Make the change and allow the change. You can resent it, but if you resist it, you're going to lose. We must not only build a new normal, we must become the new normal. And millions of us actually are. We're the cultural creatives, we're the spiritual progressives, we're the sacred humanists. I believe Jesus was. We all must become aware of and connected to our Christ consciousness and essence in the same way Jesus was. So this isn't, there's science and there's science fiction. Most people think of viruses as parasites, but they aren't parasites at all. An organism has to be considered alive to be classified as a parasite. The virus itself is not alive scientifically. They don't grow. They can't move on their own, and they don't metabolize. They don't even have cells. But the one thing a virus is very good at is reproducing. When it finds a suitable host cell,
Mutation. That's it. That's
why immunization against the infection or the cause of the infection, enhancing the antibodies that we're created in perfect design with. Our body right now, every single one of us on this Zoom, as you know, the Bishop-elect, has cancer cells running through their bodies right now.
Yes.
Every day, 24/7. Your bodies are so fearfully and wonderfully made. You have fought off and survived all kinds of bad bacteria.
Yes.
Germs, viral infections, cancer. Most men who live past 70 will die with cancer, but not of it. Most men will have some type of prostate issue, and it won't kill them. We will survive it. We're very strong. The issue is not in our physicality as much as in our psychology. We're having psychological and biological warfare. We got to get our heads together and stop thinking crazy thoughts. And an image, you have to be careful what images you allow to rest in your mind, because images are like magnets. They literally draw you toward them. If you think you are a victim, and you're going to be victimized. If you think the system is against you, then you're going to feel systemic pain all the time. There are a lot of negatives out there. I'm not denying that. but I'm not going to allow myself to be mentally ill or have poor mental health because I'm constantly fighting fear. More people have faith in their fears than they do in God.
So what I hear you saying, Bishop, is this is about higher consciousness. It's about awareness.
Ways of thinking. Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about a new way of thinking. Since this is a new normal, then you have to think differently, right? So it's about also, meditation. That's something that people, push back against, right? But David said he prayed, but he meditated on the word day and night. I think we skipped that piece of it, that, practicing meditation is good. All of the things that we vilified, it's, say, oh, that's new age and God don't have nothing to do with it, are the things that we need to start devoting ourselves to, in order for us to have a changed mind, in order for us to evolve, and in order for us to be more aware.
Well, even the scripture says, be not conformed to the pattern of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing or redoing, literally the renovation of your thought life. What you think about, you bring about. What you fear most, you ultimately experience. By the same token, what you faith most, you ultimately experience. If you have more faith in disease, dis-ease, virus, infections, lies, victim consciousness, that'll become your life. You have to determine, we individually must determine whether we're going to be victims of or victors over. Our encouragement, the reason we have this brilliant scientist and all the other guests we have on this program as gatekeepers, is to help keep the gate. The gates of hell shall not prevail against the kingdom. The church, which is, that word is ecclesia, those called, or those who hear the summons to higher consciousness. The call is upward. Our call is to extend, to expand, to elevate ourselves. And so when we do that, we rise above circumstance. That's what Black people in particular have learned years. We in Pentecost, we learned transcendence. We learned how to create another reality over the one that we were experiencing that gave us survival capabilities.
Yes.
Think it.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
right.
As a man thinks, so is he. That's what But there is also In Vogue had a song a long time ago. I don't say long time ago, but like in the 90s. And they said, free your mind and the rest will follow. And I think that's, it probably needs to be the new chant that people wake up to in the morning, freeing their mind, and the rest follows. What is the rest? But your body follows, your spirit follows, your emotions follow. Come on, your money follows when you free your mind. So we always talk about liberation. And I think the way we talk about it sometimes is that, it's just a freedom from, I guess, church bondage or where we've been. But the liberation really starts in your mind first.
Of course. It lives in your mind.
Yes.
Everything is in the mind. Somebody asked me about, there's a difference between worry. Worry has stress. Concern will stretch you, but not stress you. It's okay to be concerned about the conditions of the world, of our country, of the planet. But when you start worrying about it, it's very destructive. Concern is constructive. You remember, we're a feeling people, but the universe doesn't judge us so much by what we feel as by what we think about what we feel. And what we think about what we think about what we feel. And then what we think about that. So the power of thought, the mind is creative, the mind is powerful, the mind is inventive. So with the mind, we survive. With the mind, we thrive. With the mind, we connive, if you will. You can think stuff up. So I think myself happy, Paul said. In my thinking, and he was in prison when he said that, I think myself happy. I'm imprisoned. I've been lied on. I've been talked about. I've been buked and scorned. But I think myself happy. My consciousness says I'm okay. Let me just tell the audience again, you know you're all right. You just don't believe it. You know you're smart and magnificent and divine. You know you're cool. You know you got your shift, S-H-I-F-T, together. But you don't believe it. You're afraid to believe in who you really are. You know you're amazing. Accept it. Don't fight it and don't deny it. You're healthy. You're happy. you're whole. And when anything suggests otherwise, you tend to protest. You might even get depressed. The only reason you're depressed is because you know what you don't believe. You know you're okay, but you don't feel it. So you start protesting and drinking too much, whatever you drink, and snorting too much or smoking too much or eating too much chocolate cake or whatever you do. So find other ways to medicate, which is meditation, thinking. The word meditate really means to murmur, or to repeat. You say to yourself what you believe to be your reality, or what you want to be, at least, your reality. So, physician, heal thyself. And first, the Hippocratic oath, do no harm.
Do no harm. That's it. This has been incredible tonight. Thank you so much, Bishop Pearson. And we are grateful again for Dr. Parikh and all the information that she's giving us. Thank you for all of our listening audience on tonight. We appreciate you, Facebook Live. We appreciate you, YouTube. We're going to end the night a little earlier than usual, but we are happy about this. We want you to make sure that you go back and you watch this. Make sure that you share the information that has been given on tonight. It is imperative. It is helpful. It will help us move us forward to achieve herd immunity. I'm hoping that you also heard things that Bishop Pearson said on tonight that will help you move towards higher consciousness, that will help you move towards evolution, that will help you move towards freeing your mind so the rest can follow.
That's
it. Have a great evening, everyone.
Love you all.